One of the most polarizing topics amongst modern anime fans is the usage of computer-generated imagery or CGI. It truly has become this anime supervillain almost. Upcoming shows such as the fully CGI Trigun anime and the Slam Dunk movie received major backlash. So did Chainsaw Man for using approximately 60 seconds of CGI in a 24-minute episode. Any CGI is bad CGI. That is the general opinion amongst most fans. And as I have mentioned before, that couldn't be more incorrect. In this video, I'll talk about the various uses of CGI in anime, and I'll also try and explain why it's not necessarily a bad thing, although that plea may very well fall on deaf ears. Like and subscribe if you enjoy. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers, which is insane to think about, and let's get started. Let's begin with some of the more inoffensive uses of 3D in an anime. These are techniques which most people watching don't even notice. Tracing over CGI models is a relatively uncommon technique where a shot is laid out in 3D and then traced over with 2D animation. The models used are generally basic human models and they don't resemble the actual character. That part is up to the animator. Studio Ufotable uses this technique a fair bit. The God of High School used motion capture, which is technically tracing over CGI models as well. More recent examples include shows like Blue Lock and Jujutsu Kaisen. People normally don't have a problem with this style as there isn't any actual CGI on screen. 3D backgrounds are another way of making use of CGI. One of the biggest reasons why CGI backgrounds tend to look good is the fact that anime backgrounds in general are fairly realistic. Of course, some shows have a more stylistic approach, but generally speaking. This is why the 3D backgrounds don't feel out of place. CGI backgrounds will look photorealistic, which is not that different from hand-drawn ones. They also allow for more camera work which would have taken a ridiculously long time if hand-drawn. Ufotable is the gold standard when it comes to using CGI backgrounds and creating some incredibly complex shots with it. Witch Studio's usage of 3D backgrounds for Attack on Titan was also really good. Lately, Studio Mappa and their CGI teams have stepped up their game as well with Jujutsu Kaisen Zero and Chainsaw Man. These 3D backgrounds don't always look good, however. The Jujutsu Kaisen anime is heavily kneecapped by subpar 3D backgrounds, which is an example of the overall quality of a show being brought down by CGI. But all in all, most fans don't seem to have a problem with the CGI backgrounds. The outrage happens when the foreground uses CGI. When character models are 3D, and to a degree I understand. There are many problems with these three-dimensional characters. Facial expressions are a major issue, so is movement, especially the more subtle ones. As I mentioned earlier, the reason why 3D backgrounds tend to look good is the fact that anime backgrounds in general look realistic. Anime characters, however, don't. Characters in an anime have a different way of moving, especially when it comes to facial features. These movements are not exactly realistic and thus they are really difficult to replicate using CGI. These models need to be rigged differently from a regular human model, leading to that uncanny way of moving that CGI character models seem to have. Another issue with CGI models is the frame rate. When a CGI model is used in an otherwise 2D scene, the issue is highlighted. The 2D elements will be animated on 2s or 3s, or in other words, have a frame rate of 12 or 8 FPS. The 3D model, however, will always be a perfect 24 FPS as that's the highest frame rate anime has. This difference in frame rates leads to a visual whiplash, which is often corrected by intentionally removing frames from the 3D models and reducing their frame rate, which can lead to awkward movement. Compression is also an issue, which occurs when a detail-heavy model is shown from a distance. The detail converges in on itself, leading to a very clustered look. Of course, there's also the issue where the outlines and the line work simply doesn't blend in with a 2D background. CGI models also don't have natural smears, so heavy amounts of blur have to be used. So despite all these issues, why do shows still use CGI models? I mean, I've seen plenty of people say things along the lines of, the studio ran out of budget so they had to use CGI, which is hilariously incorrect, as CGI is more expensive than traditional 2D animation. It's not a money-saving approach, so then why are these models used? There are two main reasons for that. One is to save time, and two, it's a stylistic choice. The reason why CG can be used to save time is as follows. Once a model has been made and rigged, it can be used for as many scenes as necessary without much extra work being required. 2D models, on the other hand, need to be drawn over and over again, and it ends up being more time consuming. The second reason is fairly self-explanatory. There's another reason, sort of. There are some things which are simply too detailed to draw for multiple frames. There also may be too many entities to draw, such as crowds. Now you may ask, is there a correct use of CGI models despite so many handicaps? The answer to that is yes. Sort of. It depends on what our definition of correct usage is. Should an ideal 3D model blend in so well that you can't really tell that it's 3D, or should it stand out and make use of certain features that are only available when a 3D model is used? I can't really answer that question myself, but personally, I prefer the second option. There's another use of CGI, or more like a collection of uses, a fully CGI anime. A lot of the issues I mentioned earlier, such as the frame rate and blending issues, don't apply anymore. CGI models fit in a lot more when everything around them is CGI as well, which is why Land of the Lustrous looked so good, and which is why the new Trigun anime and the new Slam Dunk movie will look really good as well. Going back to the use of CGI in an otherwise 2D anime, my personal favorite use of CGI models would be the first episode of Attack on Titan Season 4. Aside from the Beast Titan, every model blends in so well. The fact that the background has a similar color palette as most of the models also helps. This is the best Reiner has looked and moved since that one Arifumi Mai cut from Season 1. The fact that people would rather watch this awfully animated fight over what I consider to be the best all-around CGI model in all of anime, just because the former is hand-drawn, is sort of concerning. And speaking of people, the hate culture around CGI is ridiculous. Just the mere mention of those 3 cursed letters leads to angry NPCs on Twitter coming for your throat. People are also terrible at recognizing CGI. In most cases, the CGI they are hating on isn't even CGI. People seem to associate any form of camera movement with CGI. Sure, 3D backgrounds allows for more camera work, but that doesn't mean all camera work is 3D aided. Also, people automatically assume any realistic character movement to be CGI, which again is absolutely not true. It's fairly obvious that CGI is an important part of modern anime. Just imagine what your favorite shows would look like if they didn't use CGI. Wit Studios' Attack on Titan would not have those fast-moving ODM gear scenes, as most of them make use of a CGI background. Of course, there's Arifumi Imai's animation on Levi vs. the Beast Titan, which doesn't use CGI, but again, most do. The second and the third season didn't have the schedule that Season 1 did, so it's safe to assume that if it wasn't for the 3D backgrounds, most of the ODM gear scenes wouldn't be there. Imagine ufotable shows such as Fate and Demon Slayer without the complex camera work, which is made possible by 3D backgrounds and 3D models serving as the base. Also, there wouldn't be any photorealistic effects and backgrounds. Imagine Attack on Titan Season 4, it wouldn't be here, period. If it wasn't for CGI models, those gorgeous shots from the rumbling would not exist. Shows like Beastars and Land of the Lustrous would not exist either, at least not in the way that they do. Dorohedoro would probably never be adapted if it was not for CGI. The manga designs are way too detailed. Even if it was adapted, it would get the Vinland Saga treatment, with the designs being heavily watered down to the point where they look like some western cartoon and not like an anime. There are many more examples, but long story short, CGI is an extremely useful tool for anime production. Sure, it doesn't always look good, but just remember this: for every CGI colossal titan, there's a CGI armored titan. Or in other words, for every atrociously bad use of CGI, there's a good one as well. So that was it. What is your take on the use of CGI in an anime? Comment down below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and until next time.